And you were pretty much, because it was a relatively small company, as you said, and you were the CMO there for 3 or 4 years, but you realised this global challenge needed you couldn't spend $750,000 on Seaboard. You had to kind of address it, and it just happened when the Eloquas and the Marketos came into it. So what got you into that? What was the spur?
Yeah, so when you're a small business, you have kind of the same issues that you have in a larger business for different reasons. So first of all, we were kind of faceless because there were so few of us. And when you're in a large brand, what you find, you're kind of faceless because there's so many of you and no one can find anyone to talk to. And it's the reverse in a small business. So I was looking at ways in which we could be, a hell of a lot more efficient in what we did. And, with a very small marketing team, we had some quite ambitious, sales goals, and we weren't going to get that by, I don't think we ever sent out a piece of physical mail to anyone. And, so it was a good time to be in that sort of business, and still is a good time to be in that sort of business because you could extend your reach to digital channels quite easily. But one of the things I needed was a way in which we could prioritize opportunities for the sales team. So we're maximizing our handful of sales guys to be working on the best deals, and then making sure that everything else doesn't fall through the cracks. And we just couldn't do that, with an individual spending half their time in spreadsheets or something, or it was just a nightmare. So I had become aware of marketing automation sort of actually just before I joined ShipServe, and they were just coming to, I guess, marketers kind of awareness, although these companies would argue they've been around for a few years, right? So the Eloquas and so on. So it was a good time to actually look at the market, and looking at a few of the offerings, we actually went for Marketo, and
that was mainly because you were a Salesforce customer as well, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember how. I think a friend of mine recommended Marketo. At the time, they were in beta for their first module, which is kind of, I think they call it lead nurturing or something, but now they have, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 modules, and it's much more comprehensive. And I think it was really a really interesting exercise because it was a testament to how small businesses can really embrace this technology and get up and running with very little effort and kind of expense. So firstly, it wasn't that expensive. We could afford to do it. If we could afford to do it,
pretty much anyone
else could afford to do it. And secondly, at that time, Marketo were only based out of San Francisco or Silicon Valley. They had no European offices. They had just an office out in Mountain View or somewhere, I can't remember, outside San Francisco. And that wasn't a problem for us. We got up and running with a few phone calls. We didn't need an on-site consultant to spend days integrating things. Switch on and integration took 5 seconds, press the button, linked it to Salesforce. It kind of worked. And I think for me, that's how I expected things to work. I didn't need any of the support. We had some, I wouldn't say issues, questions or whatever, and they're very, very good to kind of reply to them. But for me, it was a very painless process to get into that world of marketing automation. And, we were able to get up and running, within hours. It wasn't that difficult.
Well, what was interesting about that was because you introduced Velocity to these tools in early 2008. I think it was January 2008. You were really starting to begin to get to grips with them, and we'd read a little bit about it, and then you were using it in anger, and my immediate conclusion was this is going to be huge. It's the missing link for B2B marketing. And I wondered for Velocity whether we should start thinking about becoming a Marketo partner and selling Marketo and implementing Marketo. And so I did some research. I went and talked to a whole bunch of our clients, and it was really interesting. The market just wasn't ready in 2008. In fact,
you mean the European market?
The European
market,
the UK market. And whereas for us, soon you'd opened our eyes to this. You mean you can try stuff, you don't have to commit six-figure sums. You can trial, you can pilot, you can get results and make it better really quickly at low cost. And I thought there would just be a kind of stampede from B2B marketers. It's actually only beginning to happen. I think in the last 6, I mean, obviously in America it's a year or two ahead, I think. Yeah. I mean, we went to a seminar from one of the marketing automation vendors the other day. It was absolutely mobbed. And it felt like the beginning of a market, an information-hungry market, and people were talking and spending a lot of time, and quite senior people. And it felt like the market had started, end of 2011, that it was more than, the early adopter John Wotton types was moving into the mainstream. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so definitely. But what I would also add to what I just said is, okay, so, I was kind of up for using marketing automation. I was happy to take a risk to some extent, which a lot of people aren't, to use a vendor. Because subsequent to that, what I found was I was doing a couple of reference calls and people were like, well, I'm a bit concerned they don't have any people over here. And, it was never an issue for me. And I was willing to kind of risk that because, with software as a service products, you can kind of switch them off. The data is in Salesforce. And, you're not sort of putting it into a proprietary solution, well, most of them. So, what's the worst that could happen? You stop using it, your data's still there, and it's kind of, it's kind of fine. But I would say onto that, it's not just the attitude of the marketer; it's also the organisation they work with. And I was very I was very lucky to have a CEO who was absolutely happy to embrace, a bit of innovation.
And automation.
And in fact, ShipServe, little old ShipServe, not only were we Marketo's first European customer, so a nice first for us there, we actually also, I didn't realise until a bit later, were Salesforce.com's first European customer as well.
Right.
So way back in 2001 or something, my CEO, when he founded the company, one of the first things he did is said, I need to track my business. I need transparency and visibility of my business. And I need a CRM system. This Salesforce thing looks cool, great. Take that off the shelf and used it. So he took a risk then and kind of continued that through, 7 years later, 7 years later, to support me choosing Marketo. So we talked about the cultural attitude of marketers. There's also the businesses we exist in as well, and their ability to support that. So I would imagine a lot of marketers in Europe are very reluctant because they know their senior management to put forward something which is seen as a little bit risky until it's been proven out. So, so I think that's the other thing as well. It's not about the technology; it's also about the organisation, the
culture, the openness,
culture, and of course, success of that technology is totally predicated on how you use it. In itself, it won't do anything for you.